Welcome to channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one I'm getting all the insight. Alright, it's been a quiet week, isn't it? Obviously there has the Department of Home Affairs and Immigrations behind the ground. Obviously they are doing a lot of tilting, and there has been a lot of review actually being, and recommendation has been submitted to the department and due by the end of the February, where the government will perhaps issue some changes which will be, I think will be very it's a good news. It will be preferred and it will be favorable to the newcomers, I mean the new migrants. So there has been some news coming out, and also in this video we would like to discuss and also look at some data that has been published by the Freedom of Information to see how the skill migration has been going despite of all the numbers has been throwing into invitations. So anyway, let's check out the first news. It's from IOL, whether that's going to stand for, but anyway, the news is actually, the media has been reporting that the Minister of Home Affairs, Claire O'Neill, has said something. She basically said that she's open. I mean, Australia is open for all type of changes and accepting all kind of recommendations, but then they will finalize how the actual visa, well, the new visa system will work. It's exciting for 2023. So this news with the title says Australia set to change the skill-based visa program to a demand-driven immigration system. Now, what does that really mean? Obviously, there's a lot of things talking about down here, and then obviously there has been the Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill report saying that every idea is on the table, blah blah blah, and it will take, I don't think it will be very quick to actually change into a new system, but how it's happening now at this point of time is where the government of Australia is feeling that the current system, well, obviously done a lot by the former government, Liberal government. They believe there has just too many red tapes. Easy way to actually express this. By means, the process is complicated. There has been a lot of things required to be done. You graduate as an international student, you quickly get into your post-grad work visa and accrue all these visa, get your skill assessment. Remember, over the past 3 or 4 years in my channel, I always say the first thing you need to do is skill assessments and get your IELTS done, get as high as possible. And obviously, it has come to a point that we have experienced in the past year that, for example, the government of Tasmania is throwing a lot of trending criteria for state nomination, and so was New South Wales previously throwing into finance manager required to have a point to be 110 points, which is, well, no one could actually get it. So it creates a lot of issues. There is a state government required to go through with the assessment, and there is a skill assessing authority. Talking about skill assessing authority, how delayed are they, right? What about vet assess? They have priority button that you can click, and they only issue 25 priority applicants per day. Now, how on earth? I mean, 25 times 365, how many are there, right? So traditionally a skill assessment will take about 3 months. Now that's too time consumed. As we are in the end of pandemic, we're in the post-pandemic era, all the country around the world is facing the same thing. Every country wants talents. So how would Australia's visa system to be competitive enough to actually get those talents, obviously, is what this whole review of immigration system is all about, and it's trying to change from skill base. So doesn't mean that you are not required to have a skill. You still need to have skill. For just give you a hint, if you want to be a medical doctor, obviously you need a registration and license to actually practice in Australia. So as the registered nurses. So you still need skills, but it's twisting from skill base. Obviously, skill base means they are competing against each other, the talents, by using points. Now, how are they going to change to a demand-driven immigration system? Now, that is likely to be something that we have experienced previously on the 457 visa program, whereby back then it was uncapped, so number is uncapped. There is no migration planning level for employment-based visas as long as you got the job. Now, whether or not they need to create something that the job is actually connected directly to their skills or not, then the migrants will actually get the visa and migrate in that way. Okay, and this actually coincidentally matches to our previous video talking about the employment sponsored visa, where they're gonna basically scrap the skill occupation list, and this is what the Minister of Department of Home Affairs is basically saying as well. Perhaps scrapping, removing the skill list is a way to go. I'm very welcome on this. I'm actually very welcome this. For example, how they have done it for 485 visa, for the graduate work visa, taking away the skill occupation list, allowing people study certificate and diploma, also allowed to get the 485 visa. That's brilliant. Now, are they going to continue expanding that into the professional world as well? I think it will be quite good, because currently talking about skill assessment, Engineer Australia, ACS, Vet Assess, and TRA, talking about what about TRA? Wow, they're taking ages to get all these skill assessment done, and spending money, time, and sometimes this skill assessing authority is not really how do I say that they don't match with the time required. Sometimes your visa doesn't have enough time left, and the pending required on the skill assessment taking too long and delay and causing all the issue, isn't it? So I'm for this. All good if skill occupation list is scrapped, removed, and it's going to a demand driven. That is beautiful. I think that will be really helping the skill shortage in Australia. So really looking forward in this February changes coming up. Now, last but not least, let's come back to the migration planning level, shall we? Now, why do people ask, why do Carl always come back to this one? Now, well, because that's the number that the current government has throwing at us, and it has a lot of changes. And I'm gonna reflect this to the freedom of information that we received recently in January 2023, and how those numbers actually stacks up to this. So remember, the skill parts, they are 142,400 planning level. Now, by the skill independent and regional and the states, how many is that? Altogether is about 100,000, right? 100,000. Now, let's look at some of the data that we have received. Now, first of all, it's the freedom of information request. Now, when was this one? I think it was late 2022, and it's basically asking about numbers of independent 189 visa application launched between October, the whole October actually, just 1 month. Now, how many did they actually issue? I think it was about 12,000, I think. Correct, yeah, 12,000. So, and only 8,350 people lodged it. That means there are about 4,000 to 5,000 people received the invitation and did not react or respond to the invitation, or they probably already got their 190 or 491 or whatever that is. Okay, so only 8,000 people lodged it. Now, next information is number of the 189 visa applicant lodged between August and October. So a lot more, because in August there was one invitation round going on. So altogether, just avoid the secondary, but only looking at the primary. So August, look at that. That's only 1,742 people. Now, I recall there's about 12,000 invitation thrown into the pool as well. Only 1,742 people, the primary applicant lodged it, and in September only 3,000. So that's about 4,742, despite there has been 12,000 invitation thrown into the pool. That means probably a lot of people has already left the country, probably. So I expect, why are we looking at this number now? This October is 5,000. That goes back to about this one is probably 8,000 is probably, when was this? 31st of October. So this one was 31st of October as well. So I don't know how the number doesn't stack up, but having those information is quite critical and that's how we predict the trend, you see. So in October, obviously there's another round, 12,000 invitation was issued, and look at this, there's not many people actually respond to the 189 visa, isn't it? So a lot of people ask me, well, Carl, would there be more 189 visa invitation for 2023? My answer is yes, obviously, because the previous round, it just hasn't actually gained those people. A lot of people probably already migrate to somewhere else, for example Canada, New Zealand, US or UK, or they probably lodge other visas as well. Now, last but not least, let's look at the whole picture here, the most recent information. Now, despite the word here is actually very tiny, but I'll actually read it out for you if I can. So this is basically the number of, this is not just 189, but 190, 489, 491, 887. So this is all the skill visa. Now, going back to the planning level, if we look at this, the skill visa is about 100,000. Now, just put that in your mind. 100,000 should be the planning level for 2022 and 23 before July this year. Now, how many have we got so far? Now, this is, bear in mind, this is only lodged, and the second table here is about being finalized. So how many people has actually been lodged until today? There's only, look at this, grand total. It doesn't have the whole thing here, but it's 15,000 now, and that's 9,000. So does it stack up to about 100,000? Probably not. There has just been numbers altogether lodging it. So that's about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 65, 70, about they're just about getting there, now, but that doesn't mean all of these lodgements will actually result in a grant. So the second table actually shows the numbers of grant, but it's not in. Some of the information has been blacked out for some reason, we don't know. So anyway, and the last but not least, the table down there, which is very hard to see, I'm gonna scroll this a little bit up, and the tiny table down here, it's the actual total numbers, with that still on hand. So there's still a lot of application on hand. Now, bear in mind, this number is accrued from the past 2 or 3 years as well. So it's not just for this year's planning, but it also including the planning levels of the previous years. So there's just a messy stuff here. But anyway, that's the total number. But what we actually foresee here is, I think this table is actually more give us a more sense of what's happening there. Is basically through August, September, and October. Now, not counting on the December one, because December there was 35,000 invitation thrown into the pool as well. Why was it so many? Well, because the response application on the invites is very, very low. What's happening there? Obviously, there has been a lot of people had left, but whilst not many response, the skill visa on hand by means numbers of these will be probably in the delays during the process or whatever that is still a very high number there. And that is why we have this news at the beginning that they wanted to change the system into something is more demand driven, because the skill-based visa doesn't really have that effectiveness that the government is seeking for. For example, we just see it. There has been a lot of invites thrown into the pool, but the response rate is very low. And then there has been a lot of delays or on hand that the government hasn't really been able to digest through all of them. And that's the skill-based visa, because there had just been too many things required to be assessed. Imagine immigration officer taking on an application. They need to check the points and whether the points has met the requirement. They need to check the skill assessment is still valid, checking the English still valid, and checking on your work experiences is actually matched on your EOI. It's just too many checkings. Now, checking is good, but when it stack up to certain numbers, it creates an issue. It creates delay. It creates backlogs. So I think, well, the way that the government of Australia is looking forward to provide a new visa system, which I'm pretty welcome on this one. If it's going to be demand driven, as long as you have a work and job that you found in Australia and you can migrate, brilliant. I think the idea will be good. Anyway, what's your thought? Why don't you leave your comment right down below? And I see you next video. Goodbye.